Sometimes an actor doesn't need to cry to make you feel heartbreak. Sometimes they don't even need to change their expression. Because the most powerful performance is the one where emotion is constantly fighting to stay hidden. That's exactly what Sean Penn does in The Interpreter. On the surface, he is just playing Tobin Keller, a veteran Secret Service agent investigating an international conspiracy. Professional, calm, almost emotionally detached. But if you watch his face carefully, you will notice something remarkable. Every expression feels like it's trying to suppress another one, and that single acting choice completely changes how you understand the movie. To understand why, we first need to understand who Tobin Keller really is. Before the investigation even begins, he's already carrying a wound much deeper than the political thriller unfolding around him. His wife died unexpectedly, and unlike most films that externalize grief through emotional breakdowns or dramatic speeches, The Interpreter does the opposite. It asks a much harder question. What does grief look like when someone refuses to show it? Sean Penn answers that question not with dialogue, but with his face. The first thing you will notice is his eyes. If you have seen Penn in films like Mystic River, you are used to eyes that burn with intensity. They dominate every frame. Here they are different, heavy, exhausted, and almost disconnected. There's no anger exploding outward, only someone who is emotionally drained long enough before the story begins. His gaze rarely searches with excitement. It observes, calculates, waits. It's the look of someone who has stopped expecting life to be fair. That single adjustment changes Keller from a typical government agent into a grieving man hiding behind a badge. Then there's his mouth. It almost never relaxes. Penn keeps his jaw tight and his lips pressed into a flat line through most of the film. At first glance, it just looks like seriousness. But watch long enough and it starts to feel physical. As if keeping his mouth closed is also how he's keeping his emotions locked inside. It's not just restraint, it's effort. Every conversation feels like he's choosing professionalism over collapse. That tension becomes an invisible layer beneath every scene. Film critics often described this as the sadness of the undercoat. The grief isn't painted on the surface, it's underneath everything. You don't watch a sad man, you watch a man trying very hard not to become one. This becomes especially fascinating during his interrogation with Sylvia Broom. On paper, these scenes are simply interviews, an investigator questioning a witness. But Sean Penn turns them into something far more psychological. Watch what happens when he's analyzing Sylvia's story. His brow narrows almost imperceptibly. His eyes squint, not dramatically, but just enough to suggest years of reading human behavior. He's looking for hesitation, a contradiction, a lie hidden inside someone's face. Without saying a word, he communicates decades of investigative experience. It's facial acting doing narrative work. But then something begins to change. As Keller slowly realizes that Sylvia is carrying her own unbearable loss, his expression changes in ways most audiences never consciously notice. The jaw that remained rigid throughout earlier scenes begins to soften. The eyes stop examining, they start listening. Instead of suspicion, empathy quietly replaces it. Nothing dramatic happens. No emotional confession, no swelling music. Just tiny adjustments in muscle tension. And suddenly these two strangers no longer feel like investigator and witness. They become two people who recognize grief in each other. That emotional shift isn't written in dialogue. It's written on Sean Penn's face. Perhaps the most impressive part of his performance is what he chooses not to do. Sean Penn built much of his career playing emotionally explosive roles. Characters who shout, break down, lose control. So the audience almost expects that moment to arrive. But it never does. Instead, he remains remarkably still. His authority doesn't come from loudness, it comes from silence. He creates tension through unwavering eye contact, controlled breathing, and almost complete physical stillness. Ironically, the less he moves, the more carefully we watch him. Every blink suddenly matters. Every tiny facial shift feels significant. The audience begins reading between the lines because the performance invites us to. And that's why this single acting choice changes the entire movie. Without Sean Penn's restrained expressions, The Interpreter would simply be a political thriller. But because Keller carries invisible grief into every scene, the film becomes something deeper. It's no longer just about uncovering a conspiracy, it's about two damaged people navigating loss from opposite sides of the same conversation. One speaks about pain, the other hides it. And that contrast gives the story its emotional weight. Great acting isn't always about showing emotion. Sometimes it's about convincing the audience that the character is spending every second trying not to show it. Sean Penn understands that better than most actors. His face never asks us to feel sorry for Keller. Instead, it quietly changes us to notice what's being hidden. And once you do, you realize that the most emotional performance in The Interpreter is the one that almost never changes expression at all.